Hi, welcome back. In the last screencast, we started talking about the whole idea of modules. I showed you where you could find those modules. Let me give you a hint. I didn't tell you this in the last one, but right here, if you actually click on modules, you can actually click on contrib modules, this link right here, and that will bring you directly, I'm going to close this, that will bring you directly to that page I was telling you about, that drupal.org/project/modules page. At the same time, it's just so easy to just to remember this. This is where you go to select the various modules that you might, and search through and choose modules that you might want to install. Now, question, how do you go about choosing a module? Okay, so let me just walk through this whole process of looking at and comparing modules and picking a good module. Okay, the first thing you want to do is you want to filter through modules by compatibility, because there are actually different versions of Drupal. Okay, the version that we happen to be using is version 7. And so a module that was built for an old version of Drupal, like version 5 or version 6, it will not work for your version. So you must only be looking at modules that are filtered or that are compatible for Drupal 7. Okay, so let's go ahead and select that. And then you've got all these categories of modules up here. Look at all of these. You've got things, everything, event modules, e-commerce modules, multilingual, mobile, mail, all sorts of things. Some of these might not even make sense. Spam prevention, statistics, look, extra modules to extend the taxonomy function on your, there's tons of different ones. And I admit, when you're first starting off with Drupal, it can be very, very overwhelming. You'd be like, wow, how do I sort through which modules to look at? This will come with time. Okay, generally speaking, I find that what it is that you want to do with your website, that will drive what kind of modules you look for. And you'll start to learn and become familiar with very common modules based on what it is that you want to do with your site. Let's start though, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through a couple common modules here. We're going to look at various things, and I'm going to I'm just going to sort of introduce you to a few commonly used modules. They're really just a sampling of what's available out there. But hopefully as I talk about this, it'll start to give you ideas on how to look at modules and how to, what it is that you want to do. Chances are, if there's something you want your Drupal site to do, there's a very good possibility, a very good likelihood that somebody has built a module that will allow you to do this. And these are free, by the way. It's totally, it's free to install these extra. These are just built by the community and they're available. So I'm going to actually go ahead and just search and see filter. And if I filter through by just Drupal 7, we see that we're down to about 7,000 modules. Okay, still not going to go through 7,000 modules, but let me show you a couple common ones. Views right here, this is actually a very common one. It's actually kind of a big, complicated module. It's really, really handy, and most Drupal sites I know will end up using this module simply because it's almost like part of the basic functionality. In fact, I'm actually thinking, I believe that there's a good possibility this will probably be integrated into Drupal 8. Don't quote me on that. I think I read that somewhere. I don't know if I'm right or not, but that's how important views is. I'm going to skip that for now because that using views could be an entire screencast series in itself. Okay. And then we have things like token and chaos tool suite. You might be like, what are these? Okay, let me start by something really simple. I'm going to start with this one called Path Auto. I'm going to skip down here a little bit. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to show you, this is the module kind of project page. Okay, and you got to get used to understanding how to read through this so that you can make smart assessments as to whether or not this is a good idea to install this module. Okay, because there are some modules you will not want to install on your site. When you're looking at the project page, it's generally called, the address will be consistent. It'll say drupal.org/project/ whatever the name of the module is, or like kind of a little alias to that. The first thing you see here is the title of the module. There'll often be a little screen capture of what the module looks like or something like that. Then there'll be right here a little description of what it is that the Path Auto or that the module does. And sometimes reading the description will make sense, and sometimes the description will seem like gibberish to you, particularly if you're new to Drupal. My recommendation is walk your way through the description, okay? Just gather what information you can out of that, and things will start to make sense. The more you use Drupal, the more you're going to start to be able to understand what it is that these different things are saying. Keep in mind as well, these are not necessarily written by the most gifted writers sometimes. Often it's just the developer that writes this, and I've read some descriptions that were not the best written. But on the other hand, I think, you know what, they bothered writing this module for me, and I can't be too critical of that. So let's keep going and let's take a look at what else is here. We'll see sometimes, and not always, but sometimes you'll see a section that's called requirements. A requirement is simply any sort of other module that this particular module needs in order to function. In this case, PathAuto tells us that you need the token module to also, in order to make PathAuto work. Okay, so that's a little unusual, but I wanted to show this. And we saw token. Token was on the last page, and this is just another module. If I clicked through on that, I would see a page similar to this, but it would say token, and it would describe what token does. Okay. There'll be some more information here, things like versions or some kind of admin information here, issues that are available or issues that are up with this particular problems that are currently, because these are constantly under development, recommended modules, who's actually maintaining this, who are the main developers taking care of this, that sort of thing. Generally, you can skim through this. Okay, the important thing is to read this part right here, read what the requirements are, if any. Okay, and then we scroll down to this bottom part that says downloads. This is the part that I want you to pay attention to. This is the most important thing. So let's assume that we're looking at the project page for a contributed module, in this case, PathAuto. Okay. This is how you decide whether or not this is a good idea to install this on your site. The very first thing you want to see is you want to make sure that the version is for version 7. And the way that these are organized is you'll see here the version numbers will always be something like 7.x dash whatever, or 6.x dash whatever. What this is this is to distinguish between the version for Drupal 6, okay, and Drupal 7. If you see something that's 5.x, that means that it was a module developed for Drupal 5. Now, often, because there are still people running Drupal 6, often a module will have old versions still available to it, okay, or multiple different versions that are being maintained. Okay, if you were to find a module, let's say you've got a Drupal 7 site, and if you were to find a module and that module is only available in version 5 or version 6, it will not work. You cannot install it. It will not work. Okay, you must choose the correct version for your version of Drupal. They're not compatible otherwise, okay? But in this case, and these are all individual versions of this, and you might think, why so many versions? I'll explain that in a second, okay? You'll see that in this case, we have a version right here, 7.x.12. That is compatible with Drupal 7. Okay, so this one could work. There's also this thing called the development release, 7.x. Well, this one is compatible with Drupal 7. These are not. Okay, this one is. So how do you choose? How do you choose which one? Currently, it looks like there's only 2 that are compatible for Drupal 7. This one right here and this one right here. How do you choose which one you use? Okay, the second thing you need to pay attention to is you need to look at the background color. In this case, the background color here is green. Okay, the background color here is orange, and the background color here is like a pink red. Okay, it must be a green background color. Okay, I know if you are a developer and you're willing to work with development releases or maybe other releases here like that are unstable or whatnot, you could in theory try those out, but you have to understand they're under development. They may and very well probably will break or not work correctly. And when you are a beginner, okay, you don't want to be messing around with that and wondering whether there's a problem with the way you've done something or a problem with the module itself. So I'm going to give you this piece of advice, okay? And this is something I require my students to do. Only use modules that have that green background, okay? These do not exist to you. Okay, pretend that these do not exist to you. So that leaves us with this one right here. Finally, the last thing I want you to do is I want you to make sure that it's listed under the words recommended release. Okay, you do not want anything under other releases. You don't want anything under development releases. You only want it to be under recommended releases. So number 1, the version number must start with 7. Number 2, the download link, this link right here, has to have a green background. And number 3, it has to be listed under the title recommended releases. It must be all 3 of those things. Okay, so you've selected it. We're now clear that it's this version right here that we want to install. Okay, how do we go about installing it? Okay, well, let's give this a try. What we need to do here is this tarball right here. There's a link here, tar.gz. We're going to, this is the actual file. These are the files, like the actual archive file that you need to somehow get onto your server. Okay, and there are manual ways to do this, but we're not going to do it manually. We're actually going to take advantage of a functionality within core Drupal that makes it really, really easy to add new modules to your site. So to do that, we're going to go back to modules over here, and we're going to see right here, the very last line here, it says enable the update manager module to update and install modules and themes. Okay, so let's go find, what we're going to do is we're going to search for, this is clearly a part of the core, it's one of the core modules here. So we're going to look for the Update Manager module within the core modules here. So these are all in alphabetical order. So let's scroll down and look for the word U, or the letter U. And here it is right here, Update Manager. There's that Update Manager module. It's not enabled right now, so why don't we go ahead and enable it? And before we do that, let's see what it does. It says that it checks for available updates and can securely install or update modules and themes via a web interface. I'm a fan of web interfaces, so let's go ahead and save this. We want to enable it. We're going to save this configuration. And as soon as it gets to the next page, we should get a confirmation that the Update Manager is now working. So we're just waiting for it to go, and there we go. Okay, so it seems to be working. Let's take a look. Yeah, that's checked enabled. Guess what we have now? We now have this new functionality. See, we just installed our first module, or we enabled our first module, and now we can actually install new modules. So let's click this button and let's see what we have to do. Okay, so we have 2 choices. We can either install from a URL, or we can upload a module or theme or something manually. Well, here's my advice, okay? We could, in theory, download this to our computer and then manually upload it here. But you know what? From experience, that takes way too long. The faster and smarter way to do it is to install it directly from the URL. And what it's going to do is we're going to enter the URL here that gives our Drupal installation the location of this particular module. And then Drupal is going to go get that module directly from that website, bypassing us altogether, and just install it on our site. And that's exactly what we want. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to just go right here. This tarball will be fine. I'm going to right click and I'm going to copy the link address. Okay, because I want the link address. See what's showing up in the lower left-hand corner there? It says http://ftp.drupal.org, etc., etc. That's what we want. And so just again, to show you again, I right-clicked, I went copy link address, and that copies it to my clipboard. I'll switch back here. I'm now going to right-click, and I'm going to paste it, and there's the address. Okay, that's a lot easier and a lot faster. I'm going to go ahead and click install, and let's see what happens now. So now we go through a process where it's installing this, All right, I get a message saying installation was completed successfully. Cool. All right. Well, let's go enable this module. So I'm going to click on enable because we've installed it, but it hasn't been enabled yet. Okay, so where's my module? Remember I told you you can actually collapse this. I'm going to collapse this and we'll say, look, there's some other modules down here. Okay, but why can't I click this? Why can't I enable this? Okay, it's installed, but it's not working yet because I can't enable it. The reason is it actually requires another module. And we knew that, right? Because when we read this, we said, oh yeah, that's right, requirement token. It needs to have this token module. Okay, no problem. So let's go to this module and let's go install this one as well too. Okay, I can read through this, and I encourage you to read this on your own. Okay, we won't worry too much about the pledges. Which of these versions should we install? Which one do you think is correct? Okay, well, we're looking for something that starts with a 7 because we're working with Drupal 7. There's 2 that are Drupal 7. There's this one and there's this one. Sure, those work. Which one should I choose? Right, it's the one with the green background right here under recommended releases. So let's go back here. I'm going to actually click on install new module again. And again, I want that URL for the project files. So in this case, I'm going to go right under the word downloads where it says tar. I'm going to right click, copy the link address, go back to modules. Again, right click, paste that in there. Okay, so now that is going to be the project files for token. Let's click install. And once again, we're going to get this interface where it's preparing to install. This is Drupal doing all the work for you. This is awesome. And look, it's installed token successfully. Let's go enable this now. I'm going to click enable newly added module. I'm going to, again, I could scroll all the way down, but I find it's faster to just collapse this. Look, we've got something else here. So now we can go ahead and enable these. We can go ahead and enable both of them at the same time. That's fine, okay, because we've got everything we need here, and this allowed us to do this. Let's go ahead and click Save Configuration. Sometimes it takes a little while. My server's being very slow today, but that's what happens when you're working on a shared server. Okay, configuration options have been saved. Let's collapse this. Okay, we'll see that that's been done. Why is token grayed out? Why do you think token is grayed out? Yeah, because path auto depends on token, okay? And you can't disable token unless you disable path auto first, and then you can disable token afterwards. But these are installed. We've just installed our first modules. And you might be thinking, okay, but what exactly does this particular module do? Well, this is actually a module that creates those automatic path aliases for you. Do you remember when we used to actually create, we went through and whenever we'd create new content, like the About Us page and the Welcome page, we created our own alias. Remember, we went and we manually edited the alias so that instead of like node/36, it was something logical like welcome or about us or contact us. Path Auto just does all of that automatically for you. Basically, you can tell it to, say, pull all the information from the title and just automatically create or generate an alias that makes sense based on that. And so that is a really nice time saver. And this is why Path Auto and Token together, probably one of the modules that are, or the module sets that I have installed, and I think every single Drupal site I've ever built, this is one of the first modules I've installed. In the next screencast, I'm going to walk you through a couple other modules that I find are really useful. We'll give you a couple examples of how they might be used. But for now, we've installed our new module. That's fantastic. Okay, so congratulations. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.